Omar Khaireddin. Hello.
Hello, hello.
Thanks for coming on the show, my brother.
Thanks for having me. I love being here. I love the setup that you put together, and I'm just very happy to be here. So thank you for that.
I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for Evan Bliss for making our first introduction happen, and also for Makeplus, all that you're building. I'm so pumped to unpack this maker's journey
Yeah, so am I.
of you and also of all the people that come through. Yeah. I'm pumped. All right. Let's rock it. Let's rock it right in.
Let's go for it.
Yeah, we have a journey that we must unpack. So, roots, nourishment,
Okay.
the seed of
Okay,
Omar.
we're going way back.
I love it.
Okay, so I was born and raised in the Middle East, in Dubai to be specific, and both my parents are in the design field. My mom is an interior designer, and my dad sort of helps my mom run the interior design company. Kind of takes care of most of the business side of things, and I kind of grew up with this like sort of, predetermined thought that was, my mom was always telling me that I see you, leading and sort of creating these things and putting things together. Like, that's kind of what I see for you. And I kind of grew up with like hearing that all the time, and it kind of manifested itself into, me maybe doing that. And then I studied architecture just because for me, it was one of these categories that will provide you with all the tools that you need in order to sort of, and I'll say this again later, but bring ideas to life, right?
Yep.
I feel like in terms of architecture specifically, it's too big of a scale for you to go through the whole process because of that disconnect between when you're doing like a big building, you have that section in which you're sitting down and sort of designing behind a computer screen and putting things together virtually, right? And then there's a disconnect in which a contractor comes in and then sort of puts that together and builds it all, right? And then by the time they're doing that, you're sort of moving on and working on your next design venture, right?
Yeah.
Where the smaller the scale, specifically with furniture, and that's where all of this kind of started, you get to go through that process in its entirety. So you can start by coming up with this idea and sort of literally bringing it to life and putting it together and feeling it, and there's a crazy validation, right? In having this thing that's in your mind that then you can tangibly, like, it's there, you can touch it, you can feel it. And so that's sort of the journey in which what it let me manifest this idea of what I'm trying to do. So again, back to, I studied architecture in the American University of Sharjah, which is a small city right next to Dubai. And then I moved out here about 2.5 years ago, maybe 3 now. Worked at an architecture firm, more of a design build firm, honestly, because I didn't want to lose that connect of being able to be, because it was a small scale architecture firm, I was able to actually, be on site and sort of go through some of that physical aspect of the things that I didn't want to lose if I just fixated on architecture. And about a year ago, I left my job and started focusing on putting together this creative hub, Makeplus, which is, our motto is actually bring your ideas to life, which is where this whole thing started from, right? And so that's Makeplus for you. That's how it started.
So, mom and dad are still running interior design business in Dubai.
Yes.
And your younger brother, other siblings, or just younger brother?
I have a younger brother and a younger sister as well.
And a younger sister. Neither one got interested in the interior design or architecting or furniture.
Actually, my sister's an interior designer.
Oh,
too.
she is?
She's studying to become an interior designer.
Oh,
she's still in college right now, but
so she's following the
she's following in the
steps.
footsteps.
Okay, interesting. So then mom and dad had a good amount of influence on
Definitely.
the star.
Definitely.
Yeah,
and
cool.
also a good amount of influence on the bringing of what it is
Yes.
that, you know, exists today in several ways. Like, we're not necessarily speaking financially, but even like I look up to my dad when it comes to like the business side of things a lot, because I feel like he's, you know, I've seen him bring several companies to life. I've seen him put together the structures of these things, and he's sort of like the business backbone of everything that we're doing right now. It's very important for me to mention that and to just put it out there.
Yeah.
I think it's important to give credit where it's due.
Yes.
And definitely, you know, my mother for like being the person who pushed and sort of put this idea of, you know, leading and creating and being a force, a driving force.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bless the nourishment of really solid parents.
100%.
Oh my
100%.
gosh. Preach, yeah. Man, that is such a crucial piece to that main analogy from high level perception, that real first one that's so profound, that seed of the tree getting the nourishment in the roots that enables it to flower the fruits, is the similar style idea with the human seed getting the nourishment of the roots, and especially when both parents are there and putting in that love and those basic needs being met, enable the kid to really rock it up and get some fruits. But there's also interesting archetypes about, you know, people's shadows, and some of the darkness is shadow births fire, these types of things as well along the way. What were kind of like some of your more harder times growing up that you can share with us that you think may be insightful, and how did you find the treasure on the other side of those traumas?
In terms of like serious trauma, I feel like I'm blessed that I can't say that I went through anything that was serious enough to like impact my life and change my course at any point in time. I grew up, you know, with this idea of I loved making things. I remember that, you know, back when I was really young, there was a time where I would just pick up scraps of wood and just put them together and not really know what I was making, but it was just the idea of putting something together was fascinating to me. And my parents kind of sort of caught that early on and tried to nourish that and bring that to life. I don't think that there's a specific trauma that I can pinpoint that I would say, you know, changed my life changed, besides the realization that I studied architecture for 5 years, you know, but I didn't want to do architecture, you know, and I wouldn't classify that as a trauma or something that's, you know, but it was a moment in time where I realized that I spent these 5 years learning and capturing all these tools that I have, but I don't want to put them in what I was intended to put them, right? And there was a point in time where I didn't know what I could do with these tools and what I could do with these things that could be, well, first of all, lucrative enough that I can, you know, sustain a living, but at the same time, be happy with what I'm doing and creating. I know that furniture is not one of those things where you can like make a lot of money and become like a millionaire out of doing furniture. And I know that there's an entrepreneurial side to me that wants to sort of build something and put together all these little elements that come together to form this big whole, which we'll probably get in depth into. And so for me, I think that switch where I was still working at the firm that I was working in here and having to make that decision to leave that constant that was sort of, you know, moving me forward and just making that switch was a pretty difficult time.
We call those leaps of faith.
Exactly. Well, I took quite the leap in terms of like leaving something and jumping into this idea that hadn't yet manifested itself, you know, and I had no idea what it was specifically, but I knew that there was something there, you know, something that I had to pursue. And I knew that there was a certain point at which I couldn't pursue two things hand in hand. I wasn't able there was a certain point at which I couldn't do my job and give it my 100% and also build this little baby and give it my 100%, you know? And so making that switch, I feel, was a very substantial point in my life. And there were a lot of times where, you know, I thought about it and I was like, hey, did I make the right decision? And even right now, like there are points in time where I question if it would have been better if I had just stayed at a steady, income job and I didn't have to worry about all that. But then sitting back and looking at this thing, sort of going through autopilot is pretty, like, it's validating. It's that same analogy I made about building furniture and being able to touch it, to see it, So that's kind of one way I would answer that question in terms of what is a point in time that, I had a quick shift.
Yeah. I'm glad that the parents came in and really nurtured that moment when they saw you putting together the wood scraps. I think that something that may be really interesting at a macro level phenomenon to investigate is that what percentage of people that end up having such a bright flame undergo some sort of shadow, which is a very common archetype that people talk to me about all the time. And then there's these fun and I would say more unique cases of people like you that were nurtured by two parents, didn't really seem to have like tremendous shadow-esque moments, lack of nutrients type moments, and that still end up having a very bright fire. And I would hypothesize that one of them is that you're proving yourself as the first sort of generation immigrating into the United States to pursue their dreams in the code of law in the artistic community that we have here, entrepreneurial. Yeah, so that's usually a big one for myself as well, that being the case as being born here, but being from that first generation immigrant family. And that's a very common theme in the first generation immigrant families as well. So that'd be an interesting percentage to analyze. And the other thing that I thought that you said that was interesting was that we typically don't think that when we go into architecture that the architecture is going to be doing some sort of 3D model and then we're going to hand it off and then it's going to get built and then we're not even going to see it or touch it or do the building at all. That's an important point to make, because maybe we do need architects to definitely be more involved in, like you said, with furniture. You're right there physically making it along with after the modeling process, and maybe architects actually going in and working with that process more hands-on would be potentially sometimes more rich for them to at least connect back to that along the journey. And overall, I think there is going to be a bigger synthesis with things like what we talked about with Evan and what we're going to talk about with you, is that architecting is not even limited to buildings and offices, but architecting is the word that we use when we talk about building the future. We talk about architecting civilization. We talk about civilization design. So that's probably one of my favorite ways to use that word. So I'm not gonna sit here and talk about architecting the inclusive stakeholding decentralized protocols and then for me to just be like, well, now other people can go and build that. I want to be there. Like, that's the whole thing. You 3D model it, and then you want to be there hands-on, watching, observing, creative directing, all this type of stuff, and engaging, engineering, all that stuff. It's really important. I appreciate that point too.
I'd like to also say,
please.
we've had this conversation a while back, and we talked about like what is architecture, right?
Yes.
And this is a very common conversation in the architecture field, right? We talk about it a lot, and we try to answer that question. And I feel like there's a lot of people with different perspectives on what that means. But one definition that I've heard, which makes a lot of sense to me, is that architecture is simply creating relationships between elements. Yep. I remember saying that to you, and it kind of just clicked in your head.
It did,
right?
Yeah.
Because it's not limited to architecture as a practice, as architecture in the sense that it's just this thing where you model buildings and build buildings and it's houses and things like that. Architecture is just creating relationships between elements, right? Yep. We are architecting a scenario right now where we are creating something that other people are engaging into and seeing and benefiting from, and we are benefiting from all that. And this is a form of architecting, right?
Yes.
So that's just a small point that I'd like to point out.
It's a massive point, and I'm really happy that you brought it back in, because it was a big moment for me. Creating relationships between elements. So the last couple of days on the program, and even with Jeanette just a little bit ago on the show, we dove into the idea of connections and relationships being fundamental to consciousness, and just in reality in general, subatomic particles and math and humans and countries and all levels, the macro, meso, and micro, you get what we would say are those relationships and connections, and the way that they describe the relationship between two elements. And so that is so fundamental to the nature of reality. It's unbelievable how fundamental it is, and it's so beautiful to think about it beyond just the truss of a building and the relationship of the plumbing to the electrical, but the relationship of the way that a mother tree will sequester more carbon, undergo more photosynthesis, produce more sugars, distribute them through the mycorrhizal networks to fungi and to smaller seedlings in the understory, and then the fungi will, in the relationship, sequester out nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, water, and distribute those to the trees. So that same style of relationship between humans being architected in the decentralization and the protocol layer is going to be really instrumental, given tokenomics and mechanism design, to move us more towards inclusive stakeholding, to move us more towards where we're actually linked up more like we are, where I'm taking a breath right now, you're taking a breath, the audience is taking a breath, 20,000 breaths per day. And there's a relationship, an invisible relationship between all of the O2 molecules that you're inhaling and the photosynthesis happening from phytoplankton and trees. Invisible, 20,000 times a day.
But it's happening.
But it's happening. And that to have that level of perception is absolutely game-changing. So it's an augmentation in perception. It's an enlightening, it's more holism based, and it helps you when you do unleash your gifts into the world. It helps you do it from a more enlightened and aware perspective. So beautiful. I love that. Let's unpack Makeplus. You started giving us a run through of the pressure cooker, in a sense, a forcing function for you. And I love that. Like the entrepreneurs, it's like, knock, knock, knock. You ready? It's, and that that happens kind of several times. Like, answer the call,
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So I touched base on a lot of points here. Now I feel like I just want to connect everything together to show you how we got to Makeplus. With an architecture background, and clearly we've already established that I like to make things, right? Working here, I had realized that there's a lot of people who also want to be able to make things, right? And making things is a very relative term. Like you can make like the concept of creativity, and what we foster in terms of making is either making like furniture and built objects, or it could be more of a virtual thing where you're talking about photography and videography, or you're talking about making music, or the options are unlimited, right? The journey of Makeplus started with a vision of a wood shop, right? And that's what I am. I wanted to sort of have a space to build things and to sort of put my ideas to life, to bring them to life. And then I kind of started putting the space together, and I had all this extra space that I didn't really know how to organize exactly. But I always thought to myself that, there's this analogy of build it and they will come, right? Yep. And so it was always like, let's put it together. Let's build my idea. Let's build my baby and bring it to life, right? And then see who finds themselves most suitable to fit in, to plug into this big machine, right? Yes. And there wasn't really a pre-thought, and that's probably why there's such different modes of creativity or outlets of creativity that we foster at Makeplus, it's because there was no predetermined idea of what works together, right? There was a wood shop. The wood shop was making things, physical things, right? Then somehow there was a photography studio, right? And that was just because there were a couple of photographers that I know of, and then we're here in LA where, you know, photography, videography, there's a scene for that. There was a demand for that, and so we created that photography studio. And then I remember that, or let me actually just break it down first. We have Makeplus currently operates a wood shop. We have a photography studio. We have a digital fabrication studio, and I'll get into what that is. We also have a music studio and a set production studio, right? So all these things started from, there was a wood shop.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And then the wood shop sort of, we had Knockhouse, who is the music production company that we have, came in at some point, and it was this group of guys who were just looking for a space to build something, right? To build their own studio. And they came to me with this idea of, hey, we have this idea, we want to put it together. We need some consultancy services, right? We need your help building all this stuff, because we have what it takes to, you know, make the studio work, but we need the space itself. And I remember them coming into the shop to discuss this and then seeing the space. And I remember us walking through it together, and then it just hit me like, why can't it be here? Mm-hmm. You know, like, why can't this be the space that you guys are doing your music stuff, where we can co-link the music with the photography, right? Mm-hmm. And then by doing that, we started having some of their clients who came in and started wanting us to build props for them, for music videos, for things like that. And somehow this harmony started to develop. And then the props we were putting together were more on the physical stand of things, right? But then there was more of like a design sort of set production situation that was required for most of the videos that we were trying to shoot and things like that. And that's where our other sister company, Drip Dome, came in, right, which is also part of Makeplus, and that's how they fill in that gap. And now we have this like gigantic intertwined community of all these different creative outlets that we provide to people, but also have people come to us and say, hey, well, we want like this holistic package, right? We want this whole thing where we can start from recording a song to shooting the music video and making the props required for that music video, and we're that one-stop shop that lets you have all of that, right? We actually have some different images of some of the stuff that we put together for these sets and these props that we can pull up.
Do you guys get this? I just want to make sure that people get it, because first of all, Omar takes the knock, 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 and he sees that this is the call. This is the call to adventure. This is the risk. High risk, high reward. This is sovereignty. Right? Be your own supreme authority and lead from that creativity. And so in taking this, it's very risky. You know, there's a big lease on, it's a big warehouse, and there's a big lease, and it was signed for 5 years. Mm-hmm. And that's a big deal. People are scared to sign a year for their house.
Commitment is a scary one.
What, 5 years? Jeez.
Yeah.
And so, you know, so this is a big deal. It's a huge thing. But to have the trust, to have the faith, to take the leap, and to know that I will make it happen. I will wake up every day with a fire so bright under my ass. Ikigai. It's going to roar me up, and it's going to roar me to create. And we have to also create from that most morally, ethically, and spiritually advanced and awakened place, so that everything we touch is gold. And as we do that process, the pieces fall into place. People talk about this all the time. Whatever percent, people say it's 90%, whatever, is just showing up. Mm-hmm. Meaning you wake up every day and you get to find the people that are going to be coming to pass along some of the technology and massive equipment that is super needed, to have the first makers coming into the space, to have these partners coming into the space, to know that, you know, that meeting is set up with Knockhouse. And, you know, I mean, you guys did such a good job.
Thank
I mean,
you. Yeah.
this is just, you guys here is a whole, sorry guys, my NDI connection is didn't catch that, but we'll pull it up. But yeah, Knockhouse LA, on Instagram. Then we'll have potentially, Omar's, he has an image up. Perfect. Okay. So, they did a really good job at putting this together. I'll let you unpack this. I want to say one more thing before we get here, and then we'll unpack that, because look at that. I mean, that's just like so gorgeous. The thing that I want to say is that Omar also, he recognized that it's not a wood shop only, right? There's a synthesis, there's a synergy component to this, where the truly remarkable ideas emerge when you have the wood shop, but then when you take this leap into music production, let's bring music production into the warehouse where the wood shop is. Let's see what synthesis emerges. Let's bring these. Right. What would you say drip domes is that? What is that called? These
drip dome is a set production.
Set production. So then set production makes more sense, but it's still also another leap. I mean, this is the type of stuff you have to think that, wood fab space and wood are also somewhat different, that some people are going to want to do work on metals and glass and all this other kind of stuff that's different than wood. So again, it's just that synthetic perspective of synthesis and taking that leap. So to me, it's gorgeous that's sort of the path that really opened up the doors, and it wasn't just restricted to the wood shop.
Right.
But it's that future of synthesis where all of these great things are going to emerge from these diverse minds in the same place.
I actually have something really important that I want to point out, that I remember. This is something that I used to say a lot at a very early stage of when I was putting all of this together. I think that it's very important to know your people and build your team, right? One of my biggest concerns was putting the right people together to drive this force. I am a firm believer that there is no way that one person can drive a force so powerful, or to become so powerful, right, by themselves. Yeah. I completely believe that you need several people that are all pulling this whole thing together. And the bigger it gets, the more people you need. And I think that the biggest struggle is finding the right people, right?
Yes,
and it's very important for me to bring out that, we've mentioned Omar a few times, but that's kind of making me a little self-conscious, and it feels... I'm being a little selfish here. It's not Omar, There's like more than 10 to 15 people that are very, very crucial into the bringing of what Makeplus is right now, right? Yeah. There are people who played a big role in the setup portion. There are people who played a big role in the operational portion. There are people who did the same in the making of like the classes, the small little pieces that bring the whole thing together, right? It's very important to acknowledge that this is a team effort. Beautiful. And that the team is what leaves it, to survive. And I don't think that in any way that I could have got this to where it is without the people that I have on deck, right?
Likewise. Yes.
So I have to say I'm very appreciative to everyone who was out there to make this come to life, and I am like stoked for what the future of Makeplus is. There was a time where I was like on a very different spectrum. I was just very confused. I didn't know if this was actually working or not, but the validation that I got from having other people support some of the weight and push things forward with me was just incredible.
Yes. So, all right, let's do it. Let's
people. You got to know your people, you got to know your people.
That's critical. Yeah. But in the usually files in from the leap of faith and the fire under your ass, because right people aren't gonna come when you're half-assing. So.
Right. That's very true. Yeah. And if I wasn't at a point where I could show someone something for them to believe in it. Like, I think that was, I mean, I used to talk about Makeplus when it was just an idea, and the reactions I used to get versus saying, hey, come to the shop, let me tour you.
Yes.
And that's usually the first thing I do. Yeah. So people can get an understanding of
Love that.
What is this space? You know, what does it do? What can I do in this space?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
A lot of energy
know.
here. I love this.
Love it.
This is
Yeah,
beautiful.
that physical manifestation.
Yeah.
Come get
Yeah.
a tour of the Makespace, of the studio, of whatever the entrepreneur is actually. Come look at my code. Come look at my app. Come look at my biotech advancement.
You got to show. You have to
Exactly.
show.
Move away from wantrepreneur to entrepreneur.
100%.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Beautiful. Beautiful. Love that energy. All right. All right. We're going to unpack these badass images that we have, and we'll also run through a software demo of Rhino to showcase how the this set production is being done. So we'll do that. All right. So let's see here. Let's get up our mixed effect. All right. Great. So we are ready.
I'm gonna first start talking about some of the things that we offer in terms of like the fabrication services that we do.
Should we show the space as like the
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
that could yeah
Yeah, we could do that.
it's the thumbnail right now. It's what you see in the thumbnail.
And it's also, I believe,
Yeah.
that's the woodworking shop.
Hell yeah.
This is just one of the bays that we have that basically this is the woodworking shop. It's a fully equipped shop with all the tools that you may need. A lot of people also bring in some of their hand tools and work on their own stuff with that, but we also offer all of that. Here's some other photos of
So good.
the tools that we have, and then we can actually go back to there's that bigger image. There it is. So that's basically the shop that we have, and as you can see, it sort of towards the back. I can point here. Yeah. So these bays are what we usually, and this is kind of where I'm about to get into like our business model and how we operate. One of the biggest problems coming into what Makeplus is meant to serve, or the problem that Makeplus is meant to like sort of cater to in terms of the fabrication services, is that the maker spaces that are out there currently offer more of a membership situation where you find yourself paying for a bundle of hours or a bundle of time when a lot of people actually do this on the side, and so it's almost like you're getting a gym membership, but you're only going to the gym once a month, right? Yeah. Or maybe twice a month. And so paying a lump sum of money is a commitment that people don't want to do. And I kind of found this like this sort of business loophole that we can probably work out, which was inspired a lot by the scooters that we have out there, where you scan the thing and then it starts charging you for the time you use it. Yep. And my biggest question was, well, why can't we just have the same concept but for woodworking? Like why can't we be this space that people can come in, scan something, log the amount of time that they use that machine or that space, and just walk out and have to pay for just what they did, right? Yep. And so we devised several different models that cater to the specificity of what you were trying to do, right? Yes. So we have a pay per minute model where you get a small workspace, and that's completely free, but that's for much smaller objects that you need to work on. And we only charge you for the time that you actually use the tools at the shop. Yep. The other method of payment is for a little bigger scale, where you need extended periods of time and more space to work on it. Yeah. We actually call that more space, and that's what you see in the back, where you're actually can you pull that up real quick?
Yes.
So these bays out here in the back, these are usually rented out per day. You get access to the space and the tools, and that way you are only paying for the days that you're required to build that project that you have to work on, and then you're out of there, and then you have no other commitment. But for those who actually want that sense of commitment and know that this is something that they want to do over and over in time, then we also have residency programs where you can be grandfathered into a lot of things at the shop, where you get access to the 3D printers, the laser cutters, certain amounts of time with the spaces and things like that. So we kind of devised, we're not trying to put out too many options, because that is kind of confusing when you offer way too many things. We're trying to be as concise as we can, but as well as cater to as many people as we can in terms of offering what we can offer, right? At the same time, so that's in terms of how we operate the shop. Now,
quick say, the idea of looking at the scooters and at all of the other sort of technologies that are becoming more and more A, democratized, and B, people able to just use them for a couple minutes and as needed without needing to buy the actual equipment. It's a really, really important insight that you got and that you're bringing moving forward. A lot of people want to just use a tool for a period of time, and that's perfect.
And here's the thing. I think that people are getting to a point where they don't want to interact with people to get to what they want to do. You know, like people just want to streamline. Actually, one of the things that we had initially thought about in terms of how we operate this thing is that we kept saying streamline your fabrication experience, right? Streamline it. That was a big word for us, you know, putting this whole thing together. And the idea of having to go through one person to another through certain levels of, you know, orientations and things like that. And don't get me wrong, like you have to go through an orientation for us to make sure that you know how to use all the stuff. But we're just trying to make sure that you are spending the least amount of time you need to spend in order to get access to what you want. And that's what people want. People now we're living we're in a world where people want that one click and boom, I got it. You know, one click. Yeah. And so the less interaction people have to go through to get to what they want, the better. Right?
Less friction is really, really important.
Yes.
And to not completely kick out the human yet is also important in the sense of specifically in a specific field, I'll say in artificial intelligence is important to keep the human in the loop for a while and hybridize. I mean, you guys have a hybrid as well. Obviously, the person comes in and they don't know where the tool is that they're trying to rent. I mean, they're going to have to talk to somebody. I mean, so it's the AI human hybrid is for now. I mean, you'll be getting into within 10 years, you'll be getting into autonomous cars. So there's not going to be a human in those. So there's going to be this gentle transition into what we're talking about, and we're already there on grocery stores, obviously. Right. Self-checkout. Right. I mean, when I have to buy 10 of something, I don't scan it 10 times. I ask the person, will you please come and mark it times 10, because I can't do that. So it's still human AI hybrid in many ways. So but it's friction. Friction and molasses are the things to get out of the way so that we can more effectively create. I can log in, soon you guys will have this ability as well, is that, if I want to woodwork at 2 a.m., right, I'm just logging into the app, right, walking through the door, doing my woodworking from 2 to 4 when nobody else is in there. How much do we love that? I love that. I love doing stuff when nobody else is doing stuff.
Yeah, 100%. That's when you're like most zoned into your own thoughts, and you don't have any of those distractions. So in terms of making the space autonomous, we are doing our best in terms of like trying to create that lack of friction that you were talking about, right? So when you actually book a space, right, on the website, you will go through a series of questions that ask you what tools you need and what things you need and and then by the time you're ready for your reservation, you come, and the space that we're offering already has all the little hand tools that you need, and you already have access to all the big tools. So in essence, it is an autonomous process. The part that we can't eliminate is we have to make sure that people can do this safely. Right? So there has to be a point at which someone is there to like walk you through the process, show you our rules, and then sort of guide you, make sure that you know how to use these machines, so you're not going to hurt yourself, right? Because at the end of the day,
there's a disclaimer on
there. Yes, definitely.
This is the kind of stuff. The lawyers
urged.
Exactly.
They urged.
I know.
But I mean, you're right. Friction needs to be eliminated as much as possible because people want to just be able to. And that's why things like Amazon have the buy now with one click. Right? You're trying to simplify how fast you can get what you want. Yeah. And that's what we're trying to do.
I love your vision with the autonomous fab space. Yeah, it's great. It's beautiful.
I mean, we also, yeah, I mean, ideally, like I said, we're basing our model off of the scooters, so it's pretty much the same. We have an app that, you know, you have to download, and then that's how you access the space. We're at a point right now where we're finalizing the last kinks of how to actually operate these things, and the app will hopefully be running early January of next year.
Yes.
But that being said, I think the app is one thing that completely sets us apart from any other makerspace that's out there. You know, just this idea of maybe we haven't completely figured it out, but we're trying, and I think it's gonna work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know, you need the screwdriver. You need the power drill. You need the CNC. You need the 3D printer for a bit. And
there's a lot.
There's a lot.
You
just check mark off those for 60 minutes each, and then you walk in and you're already checked out via card.
Pretty much.
And
you're in there, you're doing your thing, you're building for a day or two. Nobody's gonna bother you besides me popping up and saying, "Hey, is everything going okay with you?" But that's pretty much it, you know. And then you're out of there, and you have what you wanted to build, and you brought your idea to life.
Yes.
That's it.
Okay. Excellent. And I love that philosophy, which we'll get to also as we unpack, because it's really important for people to make their ideas come to life. That's one of the big fundamentals of the nature of reality. Yes. So we have that was the biggest shot of the widest angle shot.
I can also go ahead and show some of the other spaces in terms of, like, this is our photography studio. We call it the photography studio, but it's also a multi-functional room that can be rented out for several different kinds of events. We've had art exhibitions. We've had people dancing in there. You know, it's just a big open raw space for people to just go crazy in, you know?
Yep.
And then it obviously can be set up as a photography studio. It comes with a couple backdrops, etc. And then these are the little bays that we were talking about downstairs.
Yep.
And so that's how you see it's a 10 by 15 area. And then per your reservation, when you first, you know, submit everything on the website, we'll know what tools you need. And by the time you come in, they're all set up on this rack, and you just come in and start working on your thing. And all you got to bring with you is your materials. And then these are some of the photos. Actually, this is one of the photos where you see the photography studio being used for an exhibition.
Cool.
And finally, we also have the, which we already brought up a couple times, but that's one of the music rooms that we offer. Knockhouse is the company that actually runs the music studio, so this is one of their rooms. We actually built this room from scratch.
So awesome.
That room did not exist at all. I actually should have probably put up some of the before and after photographs that we had. But we could probably pull them up on the Instagram.
Cool. Let's go pluck those quick.
Go for it.
All right. So this is Knockhouse LA on IG, and so
that's Ralph right there, one of the guys.
There's Ralph. And let's see if we can find where was in this one?
I believe they might have a photo posted somewhere with a video of what it used to be.
Okay. But yeah, it was a really this one, I think, right? No, maybe.
There you go. That's a video. I don't know if it's a video that shows you the before. No, this is one of the afters. It's okay. Point is, none of that stuff existed.
Yeah.
You know, it was a completely gigantic empty space. And these guys came in, they said we wanted to put a room together, right? Like, that's what we wanted to do. And we wanted to put together a music studio. And there was obviously a lot of problems in terms of, like, we have a fabrication space. Those spaces are loud, you know, and a music studio is a room that needs to be completely silent.
That's right.
And so that was a big struggle for us in terms of, like, really, and you know all about how, like, you know, for things like this, it needs to be quiet.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so it was a struggle. It was a fun experience. We learned a lot. We made a few mistakes, but
for sure,
we definitely got it to a point where it's working. It's working really well, and I feel like, you know, everyone is happy with the outcome, and everyone is at a point where they have manifested their ideas to reality, and now they just want to move this forward, right?
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, that photo right there. So this is one of two.
One of
the
two rooms, right? And then this is the other room. This one actually comes equipped with a sound booth, or a mic booth, and a bathroom. It usually gets booked out for like 24 hours straight because people feel really comfortable in it, which is something that doesn't normally exist in music studios. You know, they're usually in, like, you'll find the rooms and then there's a big hallway. It's a corporate building, and then the bathrooms are down the hall, etc. This is more of like, people literally go in there for over 8 to 10 hours. They don't even come out, which is great.
Wow.
And again, we kind of
creative zone.
Yeah. We kind of also touched base on this idea of how the music studio has begun to bring us a lot of customers in terms of like people who want to shoot their music videos. And so we actually have, like, here's an image of someone shooting a music video. It was a quick dance rehearsal they were doing and things like that. And then the also the synthesis that we've created with all these pieces that we've put together gave us things like this. And so this is sort of us moving into that small tutorial that we were talking about. We were commissioned by Drip Dome and Knockhouse, which are our sister companies, to create this for a rapper who's actually also one of the owners of Knockhouse. And he basically walked up to me and said, I have a music video and I want to jump out of a mouth. And I took a second to like take that in first, and then I was like, all right, let's make you a mouth, you know? And this is actually really big. Like, you're talking, it's over 16 feet wide and a little over 10 feet tall. So that's, I mean, it's large. Right?
Yes.
And this sort of came from a 3D model that we initially put together. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this closer.
I love it. Let's do it.
Yeah. So
this is what is rhinoceros, which is, would you call this CAD?
It's one of the modeling softwares that are out there.
Maya being another popular
one. Yeah. And there's some substantial differences between the two. But this one is very easy in terms of, like, it's very user friendly. It's command based. So most of the things that you want to do, like, all you got to do is just type line, and then boom, you can draw a line, and there's that line, right? And so because of that ease of use, this is one of the more preferred programs to use. But going back to what we did is we kind of got this image and we sort of traced it out, created what we called like guidelines for the panels that it was cut out of, and then we sort of put together a 3-dimensional figure of how this whole thing comes together. And this was a quick mock-up of how we believe that the structure needs to work together. And then we moved on from this to actually fabricating it. We CNC'd most of the shapes out here, and then we just cut up the dimensional lumber and fastened it together to create the actual prop. And this entire process took 2 days to bring this from the digital form to a reality.
2 days.
2 days.
Wow.
It was a day worth of modeling, and then a morning of CNCing and a night of putting together, you know?
Wow.
And obviously the painting and all that stuff was a quick process.
That's a fast turnaround for a 10 foot by 16 foot.
For a 10 foot by 16 foot. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good one. And a lot of people have the idea, but that, you know, to actually get it executed, and this is interesting. So you can basically take in this in software, you can both see where you would cut out specifically, like. So I'll walk you
through the process. Yeah.
Yes.
So basically, there are some things that are just rules of thumb that you know, right? Like most sheets that you can get are 4x8s, right? Mm-hmm. Most of the most CNC machines, at least the ones that we have and the ones that we like to use, are all ones that fit 4x8 beds. But what that means is that you buy a 4x8 sheet as it is, and you just put the entire thing on the bed.
Yeah.
It's a more expensive one because it can do that. A lot of times you'll get the more miniature versions of those things, which are like a 2 foot by 2 foot bed or things like that. But for bigger fabrication, you need a bigger bed for the material, right? Yeah. And so what we essentially did here is we first drafted out, we traced the, and I'll go ahead and hide some layers just to show you what it all looks like. But we got this image, and we traced the image out, so that's where you see the lines, right? And we basically got the sheets of 4x8, right? So this is each sheet.
Okay.
And so we had to run 3 separate 4x8 sheets because obviously the machine fits one sheet at a time.
Yeah.
And then we cut out the left side, we cut out the middle side, and we cut out the right side.
Wow.
And then we basically had the structure put together. And I can show you in what we call shaded view to separate the layers and colors. But that pink stuff over here is the structure.
Yep.
And that was sort of, measured and modeled and sort of pre-cut
so cool.
in terms of just dimensional 2x3s. We built the structure together and just basically fastened the lips to the structure.
I love it.
And that's the end of it.
And that's it, yeah.
That's that.
I love the 3 4x8s and then how you had, so that was in the CNC, and then how the CNC cuts it out, and then how you guys put those together. So what did you use to put them together?
We centered the dimensional lumber on the seam of where the piece and piece came together.
Oh, that's
right?
brilliant.
And so by doing that, that's kind of
it.
sort of why we have, like you can see them in the image, but we have like this is exactly where that seam is, right? And so these 2 panels are fastened here and here, and these 2 panels are fastened here and here, and that's how the whole thing comes together. A CNC essentially, by the way, is a machine that carves out of wood, right? It basically can create contours. It can cut out dimensional depth into the object and create like a 3-dimensional sort of feel to it. It essentially operates by running a router bit, which I can probably zoom that in. But it runs a router bit. It's basically like a drill, and the drill is upright, and there are some which can actually go in different axes as well. But for the most part, it runs upright and it just carves into the wood, and it can create these little rivets that you see over here. It can also go all the way through and cut the pieces out. So this is our CNC operating on a different sort of project, but it's essentially the same idea, right? Where this bit is going around and carving things out as it goes. And so with the 4x8 sheets that you saw here, this started off by being like a full rectangular sheet, and it basically the CNC just went in and cut out these contours this way all the way through, and then we just had to piece it all together.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then so the CNC also then takes into account the teeth, this really sort of like more difficult, like you were showing with that, what looked like, that 3rd dimension going in and making these beautiful, that's really nice. So you guys also painted it.
So the CNC is just a machine that does a certain job, which is it revolves a bit and it moves around a bed. Right. And what we do on our end is we first come up with the actual object that we're trying to create. And then the program that the CNC sort of uses to enable the cut or to make the cut understands and converts the object that you've created, the 3-dimensional object you've created, into just numbers. Right. And so these numbers are basically just coordinates, and those coordinates reference where that bit needs to go, and that's how it cuts the pieces out. So if your coordinates were to go from this point to this point to this point to this point to this point in an arc like this, it's just going to do that, right? And that's how you end up with that little curved shape that you have.
Yeah. So it breaks it down into the 4x8.
Yes.
And then a grid of coordinates.
Yes.
And then it goes and it precisely follows your, left side of the mouth, 4x8, and all the different coordinates for the mouth, for the lips, and then for the teeth. And then, so you guys are just lifting up only the lip and the teeth out of it, and the open gap to the mouth is left right there as the piece of wood.
Computer numeric control.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
Numeric control. Yep. It's really a brilliant invention. I love. Yeah, CNC is.
Can't take credit for that, but yeah, it is a great invention.
We can planetarily take credit for that.
Yeah, we're using it.
Yeah, and it's enabling a massive amount of creativity.
Yes,
Rhino appears to be really enabling for, just taking that idea. I want to jump out of a mouth. Boom. Putting it in there, and then sort of I love the 3D space. Like, that's something that I don't get much of in Sketch. Is I don't get that too much, but in here you really get it. And then it's interesting, like you bolt on that support, and then Rhino knows if that's going to successfully hold that up or if it's gonna fail.
At that point, I mean, there are plugins that you can get to Rhino that can start doing structural calculations and figure that those parts out for you. In this case, I mean, these are common pieces of wood to work with. This is a common scale to work with, and so it's also common knowledge to understand what will and will not work. There are certain, I mean, it's pretty much, the framing process is pretty much like putting up a wall, right? So if you know how to put up a wall, you can pretty much structure any vertical element or vertical plane.
Wow.
Right?
And I just realized that this could be a really good, that's I think a super good idea for portals. Like that would be a really interesting idea if like we're talking about Homeboy jumping through the mouth. Like, it would be a good idea to make a portal and then have people jump through the portal into a higher level of perception.
That's what Makeplus is here for. We're there for you.
Bro,
we can create that portal for you.
It's such a good idea.
I don't know if people will actually jump into a higher level of perception after jumping through the portal, but
maybe what we do is we put the this would require a little bit more work, but if we put the orange side of the portal on the same piece of like 4x8 as the blue side of the portal, but on the other side of it, and then we had the orange room be something that was a lower level of perception, and then they like jumped through into the blue room, and it was a higher level of nuance in the perception.
You could use like fabrics and things like that, so you're actually jumping through the fabric, and you'll have like an orange screen on one side and a blue screen on one side.
I love that. The little.
I know you would. I know you would. I know you would.
That's great. This is good stuff. That basically turns into this. That turns into this guy here. Like, maybe you can kind of. Maybe you can basically put just like a tree with a very little bit of nuance on the orange side, and then put the tree with a significant amount of nuance on the blue side, and then just have people just run right in and jump through.
People love interacting with things, man. People love that kind of stuff.
That could be a really fun, interactive, high-level perception exhibit.
I 100% agree.
Fun. And you have Drip Dome now, which basically, you guys made this in. A Halloween, right?
Yeah, we had a Halloweener event recently,
and this swing was gorgeous. It was really well supported, and it enabled people to swing on it, and it also was decorated gorgeously with roses and flowers, and so Drip Dome and you guys at Makeplus did a really, really solid job with this, and people love this.
They did an outstanding job decorating it. That's a complete fact. The structure was pretty good too. It held itself. There were a couple doubts at first, but when we had a couple tests on it and we put some substantial weight on the swing, we all got really relieved that it could do what it could do. But yeah, this was an interesting project that we worked on. And this basically opens up a gateway for a lot of the things that we can do together. Because, and even that mouth, like a lot of the painting came from them, and sort of the picking out, how the mouth needs to be, the size, all that kind of stuff. Even when we actually shot the video for that, they put together the entire set for that video. So, I mean, they fill a gap in Makeplus, and so does Knockhouse. And I feel like the harmony that we have, excuse me, is incredible. Like we work really well together. We bring each other a lot of clients. We bring each other a lot of work, and we're a great team. Yeah. Those are some of the images from the set.
I love in this one you can really start seeing, look up there. You can start seeing the definition in the teeth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that depth in the teeth, which is really cool. Yeah, I like that a lot. That's super unique, and I think these ideas coming to life in the physical, thanks to Makeplus and Drip Dome and basically the engine of like an autonomous fab space. Like I would love to in the future even go like, I would love to send you my Portals graphic and just kind of like maybe like just quick FaceTime about it, and then maybe have you guys
figure out how to bring it to reality.
Yeah. And then that's like a whatever $2,000 project or whatever people pay for this kind of stuff.
We'll figure the numbers out.
But
later,
but that's really what it should be. It should be like a nicer, higher level, higher quality, or maybe you have those levels. Like we can make it for 400 super cheap, 1,500 medium level, 4,000 like, dude, people's minds are going to be blown type thing. And that could be what people can do in the future. Is maybe there's like a submissions, like an art submissions. That way, it's also kind of a little bit more decentralized and crowdsourced. Crowdsourcing is one of the best ways to elicit high-level innovation, that especially that other people aren't thinking of. And so that could be quite interesting for Makeplus and Drip Dome. Is maybe we do this could be something good that we do together with our simulation community and also our community that we're aiming to establish with rich patrons as well. Maybe we put one of the $10,000 or $20,000 patronages from the rich patrons community, and we put that into a crowdsourcing project with the Makeplus Drip Dome team, and we basically say, okay, the coolest submission from our collective community into this will get two $10,000 projects or four $5,000 projects will get made through this, and we'll put those four up and do a grand exhibit, stuff like that. Like,
yeah.
We have so many great things to do like this, and the crowdsourcing part is awesome. And then maybe we can fly the four artists into LA to be there that made those submissions, and they can be a part of the fab process, which would be super dope. So, I mean, I love this type of stuff. The creativity is roaring, and it's just kind of what we need also in terms of creativity, and community is the other thing. Like this is really, really solid. And I love how you also brought forth, just when you give us that it on a demo level, I think it sits in on the how, especially if somebody doesn't know that I can download Rhino and I can begin playing around with this. I can watch some stuff on YouTube, Khan Academy, CK12 Foundation. There's so many different places to watch. It's
actually a really easy program to use. Yep. Like it's a great way for you to be able to think of this form and then start testing out different models and like different iterations of what that idea really means visually, without having to invest any like money into actually building and creating models and things like that, and like without having to experiment just right on hand on the actual thing, right? It's a good way to just find that small buffer between, okay, it's in my head and it's real. There's a small ground in which you're manifesting that idea, and that this is a beautiful platform for you to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So
let's see here. We got to unpack most everything. I think there's probably another small thing that we should say, which is that that sort of bit about the diagram of how people funnel in the tree diagram, and then how everyone is a maker, and that how people leave with a piece of that they've made, and then how that's super inspirational to them, to get them started, especially.
Everyone is a maker. But the term maker is a very relative term, right? In terms of everyone has the ability to create something and to project their ideas. It's being able to provide the medium for that person to actually be able to create that thing is the difficult part, right? And I think Makeplus is actually broken down into the tree that you were talking about. It's sort of a filtering process that helps people who come to Makeplus understand where they need to start. So you got to think about it like it's almost like a game, right? Yep. You start and it's asking you a bunch of questions to identify where to place you, but essentially the final end game is that you get to a point where you can create on your own time, at your own pace, comfortably, however you want, right? Yep. So and this is also portrayed in the website. So as soon as you land on the website, the first question you get is start your maker journey, or start your journey here, right? And as soon as you hit that, we can actually go through the process together.
Let's do it. Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's go through. We got if you go on yours, I can do your head. I can do your head.
Yeah, let's do that.
I can do your head at the same time. Yeah. And you can control it because you know your. All right, so
let me get rid of these. Let me get rid of this.
All right, boom.
There we go. So this is the first thing you see when you land on the website.
Makeplus.us, everyone.
Makeplus.us. It gives you a quick preview of the space, but this is more of the industrial space. And then if you scroll a little down, you'll see some of the different spaces that we offer in terms of the photography studio, et cetera, et cetera. But notice how the first question is start your maker journey, and that's kind of where we break down and filter you into where you need to be to continue and to get to where you want to go.
Yep.
So you hit start your make journey, and then it asks you if you have prior experience or not. And I think that's a very crucial question in terms of...
It is. I personally don't have that much experience using power tools, and I would love to go through a bunch of learning lessons.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's where the no button takes you. So it'll take you to a page where you can start to sign up for all these different courses that we offer. Some of them are micro courses for those of you who have less time to spend. Some of them are actually introductory courses where it's a 2-day workshop where you actually get to learn the entire process. We have workshops for woodworking, metalworking, and even welding. So it really depends on what path you're trying to take, or what you're trying to make. But after you cross the path in terms of getting the knowledge that you need to actually use the tools, that's when we go back and then we go through the yes answer to that question. And that's where you actually get all these different ways that we talked about in terms of being able to access the space. So your options are to either pay per minute, and you have a 1-day project, you want to cut up a couple things, boom, learn more, download the app, come to the shop.
Boom.
Second is I need more space, more time, and then you hit that, and then it shows you a quick brief of these are the different spaces we offer. It shows you, this is, again, the space is completely emptied out, the access to the tools that you get, how you can lay out your stuff and be comfortable in working. You can book more than one space at a time depending on the size of your project, and so forth. And so really the main reason for the filtering process is to also go back to that idea of being autonomous, right? In terms of minimizing how much you need to go through before you speak to somebody, that you can filter yourself, find yourself in that category, find all the information you need, everything, just by being at home, and then just showing up for your reservation when you're ready for it, or just showing up for your class when you're ready for it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so the tree basically funnels people out in order to get you to a point where you can fundamentally, in the end, bring your ideas to life.
Yep. Just jump on, I have an idea. I want it to come to life. Then I get funneled into, do I know power tools? Do I not know power tools? Okay, I don't. What courses do I need to take? Okay, I see. I get some human intervention. I get some training, some tools, and then I get on the autonomous side.
Right.
And then my ideas come to life at my own pace and rate. So it's like training wheels in a sense.
Pretty
too.
much.
And
it's
beautiful.
And if you didn't want to go through the process of making it, if you were not interested in learning how to make things, but you wanted something made anyway, that's where you hit our little services tab.
Okay. All right. So
and-
one moment. So okay. So there at the top is the services tab.
Right,
Okay.
and that's where that our services tab is like all the way at the top in that little menu that we
Yep,
have, and
okay.
then this is where it says, "Hey, do you need something made, but you don't have the tools or experience? We can do it for you.
We can do it for
right?
you. Yep.
And you can pick out whether you want us to CNC something because you don't have one, or laser cut something for you because you don't have a laser cutter,
Yeah.
or if you want us to just build something completely
Custom,
from scratch,
which is what
for
we're
you.
talking about with the portals.
Which is
Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah, okay.
exactly.
High level perception versus low level perception type stuff. Yeah, if you guys want to make sets. So this is the important one, especially in LA with the entertainment industry for those local, and even in, NorCal's not too far away, and as San Diego's not either. But the idea is that this is especially common right now in LA for set design,
Mm-hmm.
for music videos, this type of stuff. People really like it for that.
And you can get the whole process done. Like you can record your music, then build your set
in the photography studio.
and then exactly,
That's right, yeah.
and the music studio is where you make it.
Yeah.
Then you can record your music video, you can have us create the props for it, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. You can produce a whole music video with created props at Makeplus. Yeah. Boom.
It's a one-stop shop.
It's a one-stop shop.
It's a one-stop
That's
shop.
that's a vertical integration, my friend.
That's what it is.
That's what it is. Yeah.
That's what it is. Remember, I told you about the teams.
Yeah.
You gotta have the right people for the right things. You gotta have your people.
Yeah. This
Yeah.
is so exciting.
I
That's so much creativity unleashed.
Yeah, I love talking about this stuff. It also gives me a second to like sit back and reflect.
That's right.
You
That's
start,
right.
Yeah, and you start criticizing yourself and the things you say and the way you portray it, and you also, it's almost like you're at this point where you're being interviewed, but you're also your own audience at some point.
totally,
and you're
totally.
listening to
That's
how
right.
you're talking about
That's
this,
right.
and then you're
Absolutely.
learning more by the way
Yes.
that you're talking about it,
Yes,
which
yes.
I'm very grateful that you
Yes.
chose to have me on the show.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
I gave you the analogy earlier. It is a unique essence of a flower that we are smelling from every single one. Yeah, it's a blossoming flower, and we're like, this is Omar. Earlier was Jeanette. This is the style of like, oh, that's their soul essence. Like, I love it. I'm drinking it up. I'm smelling it up. I'm eating it up. I'm tasting it, and it's really nice, and it's inspirational because it's very entrepreneurial. It's very artistic. It's very driven by actualizing other people's gifts, which is ultimately that is such a deep future trend, is that service to other, and that is where all of these fruits come to us, is when we're serving us, ourselves, and the world simultaneously. So yeah, and that process happens to a lot of us, is where we have the sort of like, we hear so much, take a moment to smell the roses, right? Take a moment to reflect on how far you've come, because a lot of the times the entrepreneur can be hardcore, North Star focus, which is great, but it's super important to also ground that in the, that present moment, that deep awareness and presence that then enables you to really recognize how tremendously profound it's been. Like, damn, just, 2 years ago or a year ago or 6 months ago or 3 months ago, and like, look at where you're at now. Be grateful. Gratitude times infinity every moment, and then that will that's one of the most powerful driving forces itself. And I want to ask you some stuff about vision also, because you've given us a tremendous amount already, but something that I think is really powerful at Makeplus that I don't really get to see too much at other places, is that the fab space itself is very synthetic. It's synthesis driven across different disciplines, and I think that there's something about basically like, okay, so let's say we put up a warehouse, and then you throw a bunch of different, like even like slightly different fields. Like if you threw a couple, biologists and computer scientists and neuroscientists in, you're going to get like computational neuroscience and computational biology and stuff like that. And that's kind of how places like, George Church's lab over at Harvard as we interviewed him, that he really mentions that that's really one of the core essences to how they've succeeded and why they're one of the most prolific labs on the planet. It's, I think, this very similar analogy with Makeplus is that the more that you put the woodworking with the fab of CNCs and 3D printers, and then you throw in the music production, and you throw in photography and video, and you throw in all this set design, I mean, you're inevitably going to get really cool fruits that come from that. And then if you can sort of, you know, we talked about this a little bit off camera, is there Makeplus LA and then Makeplus San Francisco, and over in the Bay Area, you know, do you keep the recording studio and do you keep the set design and the fab space? Is that potentially something that could unlock more creativity in the Bay Area like that? Or do you want to try a different combinatoric, a different combination? Should you try to see what it's like if you throw a little bit of a wet lab, like a biology wet lab in there at the same time? Maybe people can start doing a fab space with a biology wet lab and see what emerges from that. I mean, the code of life mixed with fab that's bioengineering. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not opposed. Well, okay, let's backtrack a little bit. So again, Makeplus, the essence of Makeplus is to, and I've said this so many times already, but I think it's important to fixate on what like matters the most. Is the essence of Makeplus is to bring your ideas to life. What that means is up to where Makeplus is, right? Makeplus happened to be in LA. That's where it started because that's where I was. And the force attracted like-minded individuals and put together the music studio, the photography studio, and the set production, right? I see two different potentials of how this can grow. First, I would love for Makeplus, the current Makeplus, to just, you know, foster itself and manifest itself and just grow into this space that has a lot of people at once at any given moment, just outletting so many different modes of creativity in fabrication, in the photography studio, the music studio, things blasting left, things blasting right. That's what we want. Yeah. But with that being said, we know that the harmony of the music studio and the shop and the photography, we know this works. We didn't at first, but now we do, right? It doesn't exist somewhere else, but now it does, and it works. And that's great. But if we were to move it, the one step would be to actually move the entire thing and have a new offspring, Makeplus again, with Knockhouse and with Drip Dome, and just blow it up somewhere else and somewhere else and somewhere else. And the other idea is that Makeplus becomes this mobile umbrella of fostering creativity. So the umbrella goes away. We get another warehouse somewhere else. Yeah. We do whatever we did here that we know works and start outfitting that space with what is required in that community. Yeah,
that's right. That's what I'm saying. In Oakland on the East Bay, Berkeley Biolabs, I mean, I'm telling you, that area, they already have a really nice kind of like cool spot out there, and there could be a fit for a fab space in there. I mean, there's so much good stuff because you're right that in that specific location, there is a sort of gravitational pull of the cultural essences that will populate it itself. Yeah.
There's also another reason that Makeplus works well in terms of its fabrication side in the place that it is right now, which is in downtown Los Angeles, is because a lot of people are living in apartments, right? Yeah. And one of the things we like to say is we're the garage that everybody wants to have at home, right? But when you're living in an apartment and you don't have that garage, you have Makeplus, right? Yeah. So I think as a force that attracts creatives and creates a community that feeds off of itself, Makeplus needs to continue to exist here and hopefully will exist in several different places. Yeah. If it is what it is and it moves as a whole as it is right now, great. And if it moves to a different spot which wants to attract a different level of creativity and different people, then so be it.
Yeah. Yeah, roger that. Yeah. Let's, there's so many entrepreneurs that talk about this is that, really get the first train rolling.
Right.
Steam and just and chugging along, and then it's like, all right, now what do we do on the second train? How do we systematize that? Yeah, I'm 100% on board. Let's crush Makeplus and simulation. We have a lot of interesting collabs. Proud of Knockhouse and Drip Dome as well. Very proud of them because they took the big risk with working with you on
They did. They did.
Yeah, that's huge. It's huge. Do we feel like we got through enough of the Makeplus and the maker's journey and the photos we covered? Are there more tabs and stuff at the top that you think would be important to cover?
In terms of some of the photos that I have, I feel like we covered all the images and things like that. I just have more sort of operational photographs.
Yeah, go ahead.
Like,
Let's pull them up.
this is a shoot that we had at Makeplus where we had a green screen that was put out for an animation video that was put together. And then again, there was some of the dancing stuff that we saw. And for the most part, that pretty much covers most of the images that I had, more of Knockplus and things like that.
Excellent. And then web, is there something else on the web at the tabs on the top? Or you want to just walk us through what those other ones are?
Yeah, I can walk you guys through. I mean, we went through the maker journey, which shows you essentially like the 3 modes that we offer in terms of being able to make. The per minute, the per day, and then the per month, right? So that breaks it down to how committed do you want to be to the act of making, right?
Yep.
And then besides that, we have another tab that shows you our services, and so that goes through CNC milling, laser cutting, and the custom fabrication, which we already covered. In terms of our media spaces, I did show the photography studio, but we also have a couple of other spaces that we lease out in terms of creative spaces. So one of them would be this conference area where we have a projector that projects on this big wall, and it's more of like a working area, right? People usually, we bring in, there's a big conference table that we can bring out, and people have meetings over there and things like that.
Yep.
Sound is kind of an issue though, and it's because there's and so we're very selective about like who actually uses the space and whatnot. And besides that, we also have a store where we sell some of our little made objects by Makeplus and Makeplus's
This
affiliates.
is cool. Wait, this is cool. This is cool. So basically, you're also turning it into the artists actually being able to get compensated for. I love this. This is great for their creating. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the idea of the store actually came out very recently, and we started putting together some of the pieces that were made either by myself or other people at the shop, or even commissioned by other people with their consent to resell. And so we started putting together some of these things that we can sell out. And then if you're an artist and you want to actually sell your stuff, then that's something we can also do. If you just want to exhibit, that's something we also do, because we hold exhibitions. We haven't done that now because of the whole COVID situation. But in general, we also are a space where we try to promote artists, and we try to, be that space that people want to gather and see all the stuff that's being made here and exhibited here. Which takes me back to something that I probably should have mentioned a long time ago, but our 4 pillars of Makeplus, like the 4 things that we started by saying, this is what Makeplus is, were make, teach, collaborate, and exhibit, right? Like those are our main 4 pillars.
Yeah,
make in every definition of what make is, teach in every definition of what teach, be it we teach, the students, or someone else comes and has a certain level of expertise and wants to teach. That's something we also cater to and foster. Collaborate with all those different, points and pieces of the puzzle that we let you put together and we have put together. And finally, the exhibit, which is being that platform that people can come and sort of see other creatives doing their thing.
Yep. That's... The exhibit comes on both hosting the live events and then also the sales here. Love it. I think the storefront idea is so damn good. Yeah, I love the storefront idea.
It's getting filled up. It'll probably fill up pretty soon. We just have to document a lot of the stuff that we made. But
yes. Yeah, I love that, probably mostly because of the sovereignty of the artist. Yeah, that's really the big thing. Yeah.
You get to express yourself, you get to have a voice, I guess.
People are always looking for, like, oh, by the way, this is a 1 of 1. You're always looking for that. Yeah, it's a 101 or 104, whatever it is. But it's still hella cool to also say that I support a local artist in LA. People always love that too.
That's 100% true.
Yeah.
And this is the platform for you to share your stuff.
Yep.
Instead of be that artist that's being supported.
I like the idea of Makeplus coming in hot on the, that super unique furniture store front angle, and it could be cool, like support Los Angeles entrepreneur, Omar or Evan or whoever, and that's great. Yeah
these are just some of the images of like the pieces that were put together for this. As a breadboard, this is actually something that we teach in a class, so you could either buy it or you could come learn how to make it and walk out with it.
That's great.
And it's pretty much the same with some of the other ones as well. That table that you saw right there was actually commissioned by Knockhouse. So this is the table that we're selling, but if you go back to the images that I was showing you, there's that table right there.
Oh yeah, there it is.
Yep. I mean, it's a little skewed because of the panorama, but that's it right there. And so really you could either buy it or you can come learn how to make it and walk out with it.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And the teachers are you, and then there's a couple others right now that are helping. That's awesome. Yep. And then that person becomes a teacher themselves after they come and learn. Dude, that's how it happens.
I mean, we have a student who at some point ended up giving a couple of classes at Makeplus, and they started just by being an enthusiast who wanted to learn how to do all of this stuff, and then took a few classes with us, really got, and I think that there's a certain amount of, like when you really want to do something and then you also find yourself in the space that lets you do that thing, you're going to do it really well.
Yep.
And that person really wanted to learn, really wanted to be able to put things together. And they learned and they put a lot of things together and they said, hey, I want to teach people how to do this, you know? And that's, again, like everything happened inside Makeplus, the learning, the teaching, exhibiting, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
You running out of questions?
The mentor passing along the knowledge of teaching how to fish, and then the student themselves becoming the mentor and teaching the next student how to fish is a big essence of life and civilization. And so I love it. I love that cycle. And Ronnie Vargas was a big influence in my director, producer, host abilities, and I would say that you're passed along a good amount of your fab space and teaching process to woodworking to several teachers, several students that are going to become hopefully teachers as well, and maybe I will too in who knows how long. And this is very much a massive actually psychologists have specifically studied the phenomenon of what makes people that are successful in business very happy, and it's mentoring people that are younger, that are coming up in a similar career path. Man, do they get happiness from passing along the wisdom.
I believe it. You learn more by teaching.
Yeah, you do.
That's 100%, a big truth.
100%. 100%.
So,
yeah, I just did this. I just streamed one of my Evernote distillations of the California water system, and it was really fun because it totally is that you learn more from teaching. You're basically forced. It's a compression forcing function for you to distill the teaching into a short period of time, the main 5 things that you have to pass along. You have to have emotional intelligence and you have to analyze the pattern of where the person's at in there, tailor the teaching to that. There's so much that goes on in that process.
That's very true.
Yeah.
And in going through all of that, you're strengthening your knowledge of what you're doing.
Precisely. Yes. Now, all right, we can wrap Makeplus. I want to ask you a couple questions. What would you say is the nature of consciousness?
One good answer to that, in my opinion, would be it's being able to recognize that you are aware of what you are doing, where you are going, and where you are, and what led you to be where you are.
Yes.
So I think that to be conscious is to be aware of your path, right? You
Yes.
asked me about the North Star, what it is that I
Yes.
look, what sort of drove all this, what sort of is coming in the future, etc. To me, being conscious is knowing, how did I get to where I am, right?
Yeah.
What are the factors that led me to get to this point, and where am I going
Yep.
from where I am?
Yep.
And what are all the factors that impact how I get there?
Yeah.
So being able to understand that, appreciate the things that let you get to where you are, and don't take things for granted, that's being conscious.
Yeah.
In a nutshell for me.
Yeah, that deeply reminds me of the roots and fruits in the present moment. So you know where you came from, you know who you are, you know your trajectory, where you're going, that North Star, that process, and you have that, you've anchored that divinity, that gratitude, that peace, bliss, love, those highest principles in your butterfly effect, your artistry that you're cascading outward. Now, would you also give us some of your thoughts around why you think reality exists?
I mean, there's the whole I think, therefore I am, and I am, therefore I think. We can talk about this on and on and on. The nature of reality, like, we exist because we make an impact. Things we do have an impact on other things. Causality, I think, is a very important thing for me. We kind of touched base on this in the past. But I do believe that you're a force of energy. And this energy that you have, that you are projecting out there on the world, is going to impact a bunch of other things, and then therefore create more other things that are happening. And that force is something you can physically see, you can touch, it shows itself in different ways. Yeah. But just like the idea of when you put together furniture, the validation of it being a tangible object that I can touch, that I can see, makes it real for me, makes me happy to do what I'm doing, right? And so saying, like, the idea of reality, I understand reality and I see reality because I see the things that I do and what they do, and the things that other people do and how those impact the world. So there's a tangible, and it doesn't have to be something that's actually just tangible. Like, it could be something that you experience, but there's a force that's moving from you out there, and you're making a mark here, you're making a mark there, someone else is making a mark there, you're working with someone to make a mark. All these things are realities to me. That's what makes the world real. Because otherwise, even if you're just sitting at home, and I don't know if home is the right word or place, but if you're just sitting and doing nothing, then there's no reality there. There's just nothing.
Yeah, Sri Aurobindo in the Mother Mirror Althasa talked about the metaphysical truth behind consciousness force and the warmth behind what in Sanskrit is referenced to as Chit Agni or Chit Tapas, and that's literally like consciousness fire and consciousness force, and that seems to be play a fundamental role in the nature of reality as well, where there is this And the beauty, I think, is that science is affirming, given things like quantum theory, the absolute necessity to have observers, and therefore consciousness, in fact, being fundamental, and therefore also conscious agents making decisions that then impact other conscious agents and their experiences. So this may in fact be our metaphysics, that we are consciousness exploring this reality, and we may continue, if the cyclic cosmology is true, we may in fact continue to explore more combinations of realities. Do you have an opinion about this in chapter 10 of High Level Perception, where we have the infinity graphic, the very recursive graphic, this one, where we have the acorn that turns into the oak tree that then drops more acorns that drop into more oak trees, just like the parents birth a child that then grows up and marries another person and they have a baby and then make more children. Just like humans were secreted from this planet, and then we created the technological capacities that are enabling us to dive into infinite designer realities.
I don't have an opinion in terms of like a different approach or a different understanding of how this works. I completely believe that the forces that we have are just like you have represented in that diagram, where you have the human, the parents who end up bringing another person, who then ends up continuing and then bringing another person and continuing. And I think that is one way of looking at it from a biological perspective. Like, that's a cycle that exists, and we can't deny that, the existence of it. That's why we exist, right? But at the same time, it's the same as what we were talking. The driving forces of doing things in life, like, consciousness creating reality, in which realities then create other realities and other realities. And I think that both of those are completely in sync, right? Without the biological manifestation of how human beings are procreating and moving forward, you won't have the different people and the different opinions and the different forces of energy that we were talking about that are offspringing and creating more and more and more. And so, yes, it's a cycle, but it's almost like it's an exponential cycle, if that even makes sense, right? So it's like you have a circle that feeds off a dot in the middle, and then I'm seeing this as a diagram, but it's
you want to draw it?
Let's do it.
Okay, beautiful.
Yeah.
All right. What is your choice of color?
I'll do green.
Boom.
I like this green. Right?
Actually, let's get
let me do the Makeplus yellow. I like that.
the Makeplus yellow.
Will
we be able to see it?
Let's see. Let's test.
Yeah. Oh, that.
Do you see that? Let's try a darker one.
Yeah, let's try a darker one.
Sorry,
we can keep Makeplus yellow on the page, but yeah.
I'll do a black.
Black. Oh, that's the secondary color.
That's the secondary color. So the way I see it is, you have your basic understanding of a cycle is something that turns around and completes itself. And in the most pure form of that, you can think of a circle, right? So to me, an abstract version of that model that you have over there, where you have, the one person and the other person. Is this green? This is green.
It looks black. Or maybe a tiny smidge of green, but
all right, I'll let it slide.
Yeah.
You messed up but it's okay.
Yeah, my color palette.
So the way that you have in that diagram, where you have, element 1, element 2 fusing to create element 3, which then fuses to create element 4, and so forth, is the same concept as you have this cycle, right? And this cycle produces an idea, or it produces something.
Yes.
And then this cycle then goes ahead and produces another idea.
There you go.
Right?
There you go.
And
Following.
then
There
you
you
have
go.
that
Yep.
in the middle, right?
There you go.
And
Yep.
that's a cycle.
There you go.
And then you have another idea.
Yep.
And it's like this. But the funny part is this produced maybe one, maybe it produced two,
Yep. That's
maybe
right.
it produced three.
That's right.
That maybe this one fed off of and then
Yeah.
ended up producing. And it just,
And you've made the flower of life. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's where I was going with this.
Exactly,
You know,
yeah,
and then
yeah.
you have all these points at which these things, you know, they connect, and it's a big web of just
Yeah.
awesome stuff.
Yes.
That's what it is.
It's
you know.
source is in essence creativity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I think that, like, understanding that this is how the world works, right? Understanding that, going back to what I said earlier, where you're one force, you can drive something to a certain point, but then you're gonna get to a point. You can drive something to a certain point, but then you're gonna get to a point where you need another circle. You need another one of these,
Mhm.
and then this thing is gonna create another thing, and then boom, there you have it. We have that same diagram once again, right?
Yes.
So you need people, you need the teams, you need all that good stuff in order to create those driving forces that we were talking about to begin with.
Yeah.
right?
That's right. It another way of that
Go
you're inspiring me to think about this is that, and it's really aligned with what you're sharing here, is that it's like we have a cyclic cosmological process that is very much so typically expressed as this Ouroboros, the snake eating its tail. And then that process, it's funny because this entire process, from what you could call, like, you know, the Big Bang, and then the evolutionary process, and then evolution, and then you have, you know, humans, and then you have all of these insane, what are called Fermi filters right here, which are like, this last one is like artificial general intelligence, and this one was like nukes and asteroids and Anthropocene. Anthropocene will add and biowar in that one, in that top one. And then what's sort of interesting is, like you're describing, there's an idea, and this is what you could call, this is kind of like the creative maybe process and outcome of this Ouroboros, of the entire Ouroboros. And so you have, grabbing another color for us. All right, so you have this beautiful Big Bang evolution, humans getting past the Fermi filters to what is called what's called the Godhead, and then this is also referenced to as the gateway. And then that's where, you know, we're hypothesizing today that that's the metaverse. And so that's the synthesis of AGI, you know, bio/neurotech, and the mixed realities. And so we're hypothesizing now that you go from Big Bang, undergo this massive evolutionary process, get through the Fermi filters, get to this Godhead gateway metaverse, and then what happens is, through this process, throughout this entire process, you've went through, and it's been a creative process, a journey, all these 100 billion humans, 100 billion plus humans that have lived and died to build our world and have had these experiences. And the outcome, this entire cycle, is that idea. And then from this idea, as you know, even, it's funny because it's not just ancient perennial spirituality now that talks about this, but even Sir Roger Penrose, the physicist that won the Nobel Prize in Physics in 2020, is very popular for cyclic cosmology, and so it's getting mainstream. Ladies and gentlemen, it's getting mainstream. And so we have, just to wrap on exactly what Omar was showing us, is that, and then you go from this entire creative process from Big Bang to Godhead, and what happens? You go another. It's just the recursive process. Goes again. So here's your snake tail, and there's evolving towards your Godhead. And then you're undergoing the process again. Here's your idea. There's the creative process and outcome. And so it's just this, there's so many different ways to articulate this point. And that I just think that this style of perception being cyclic and being an all-encompassing, because you're not just synthesizing perennial spirituality with cutting-edge science, but you're also drawing out the physicalism narrative of Big Bang to, and then it's a big question mark. And then we'll see what that is. But the more that you sort of put on virtual reality, the more you realize that this already is virtual reality. So... all right. Well, other drawings or thoughts, or is that?
I think that pretty much covers
the
basic gist of how I understand this. I think that a lot of people can see this differently.
Yeah.
But fundamentally, what they're trying to portray is the same, right? It's just that people have different ideas or different ways of visualizing ideas, and that everything is connected. Even what we were just talking about, like with Makeplus,
yes.
And like, as someone might use Rhino to explain what you just did, and you opted to go ahead and sketch it on paper. I think all it does is it's a mode of there's a vision in here. I just need to tell it to you. I need to explain it to you. Yeah. What's the best way to do that? And for me, the circle, the Godhead, this was a perfect way to put it. Yeah.
That was really well done by bringing that into our space. Yeah. Good job. Yeah.
Good job to you.
That was nice. This is why when we were hanging out, 2 weeks ago when I first came in, that I do my absolute best to try and unleash the scent of the flower. The essence of the soul is not limited to the entrepreneurial, the roots and the fruits and the moment, but it's metaphysics.
Right.
And so to unpack that by asking the conscious agent about what their thoughts are about the nature of consciousness and reality, it elicits this to arise of the scent of the flower, but it has to come, the quality of your life is the quality of your questions. So if you're going to ask people about, the surface level stuff all day long, that's going to be the quality of your life. But if you ask people questions about the depths of the psyche and the depths of reality and all this stuff, your quality of your life is going to be that. So questions are queries into the reality space.
And I'll also add to that like I'm pretty sure I've thought about this countless times. Like I've had this thought process in my mind. I've gone through it. I have an idea of what I think the creative process is and how things come about and how things come to life. But actually being asked the question and actually being sort of put in that spot where I had to verbalize it and then let alone also diagram it. This was a great experience to really understand it. Like this was great. Fist bump.
That's what we do.
I love that.
I love that so much. And then I would say package this experience into a little heart. And package it into that heart, and then keep that heart with you everywhere you go. And then when you're constantly creating from that highest, from infinity, from eternity, from cyclicity, from your absolute highest possible ethical, moral, spiritual potential, everything else falls into place you're constantly reminded of that little heart package of experiences like this. If you can take that to your friends, to people around you, and begin asking them what they think about it, and drawing things out, sketching them out, showing them that little heart package, and then having them take it around with them.
That's enlightenment.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the slow and steady process of becoming more and more enlightened, consciously moving towards becoming more and more enlightened.
Right.
Yeah. Yes. Perfect.
That was beautiful.
Beautiful. I love that essence. You know, one thing that I am very interested in doing on the program that I actually pretty much haven't done at all in 700 interviews is that I haven't asked our guests like questions that I think are like silly.
Hit me.
Okay.
I love the silly questions.
Okay, cool.
I feel like I'm going to regret that.
Yeah. I feel like you're gonna love actually this question. So I would like to ask you about.
Oh Lord.
Walk me through your walk me through the process of. I'll give you some background also. I think it's really interesting. I don't know if anybody has ever seen like the H3 podcast and like Ethan and Hila Klein ask like silly questions about like, tell me about how you like, what's your ritual for taking a poop? Or like Logan Paul recently started asking about like, you know, how do you take your socks off? You know, do you take this, you use your right hand and take off the left one first? And then you then I can see you're thinking about how you take off your socks.
And I don't know if I'm ready to share that, but no, I'm kidding. I
don't know if I'm ready.
I usually just like, I don't actively take my socks off. It's something I've never actually noticed. I usually just like end up falling asleep with my socks on and waking up without them.
Interesting.
That's it.
So you're like on autopilot.
Yeah. And I think it's something I probably do with like my feet. You know?
Yeah, that was Casey Neistat's answer was that he goes and he just puts his foot down and then takes it off, puts the other foot down and takes it off. Yeah.
I can't consciously like recall and maybe it's because it's something that you don't. Yeah. You're not aware of when you're doing it. It's so autopilot.
You know, that's a really good question. Is that or a good point? Is that for this silly question, I should acknowledge that if I ask someone about like, hey, tell me about, you know, when you drive a car. It's
I knew you were going to say that.
You knew I was going to say.
Use that. Yeah, because you're on autopilot in your car, man. That's I know.
Yeah.
I knew you were going to make that. Go.
Yeah. And so maybe we should be more, like, where would we have a little bit more conscious awareness while we're doing something that's very relatable for people? Like, is the shower thoughts a good place to go? Like, tell me about, like, are you someone that takes a long shower, a short shower? Do you use shampoo, conditioner, and body wash?
Do you see this hair? Does this look like a short shower to you?
I know you were telling me that the man one's a lot of work. You were telling us that.
Yeah, I mean, I take really long showers.
Are we talking like 20 minutes, 30 minutes?
I think 20 to 30 minutes.
20 to 30.
Yeah, I know there's a good 10 minutes that I spend on my hair. That's just for sure.
Hair. Yeah.
On just the hair. Yeah. I could get into the details of that, but
we'll
finish tomorrow.
Okay.
So,
it's shampoo and conditioner in the hair.
100%.
And do you do it twice or once?
No, one shampoo, one conditioner.
One shampoo, one conditioner.
Yeah, one shampoo, one conditioner.
And each one takes you 5 because there's a lot of hair.
There's also a lot of untangling that needs to happen.
Every time.
You know?
Every time.
Definitely.
Every time.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, my hair is very curly.
Yeah.
And so it gets tangled up a lot, and then most of the times it's also bunned up the way it is right now. So that just makes it tangle even more. So that there's like a good 5 minutes worth of like, I never thought I'd be telling someone this routine,
that's
let alone on like
we're doing it
live YouTube, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll go through the process of untangling most of it. It shifts sometimes depending on my mood. I'll do the shampoo and conditioner first and then the untangling, or sometimes the untangling and then the shampoo conditioner.
Yep.
But there's that, and then there's like a good 5-10 minutes, you know, washing up, and then there's like a good 5 minutes of just
clean, just water.
Yeah.
And just take
and
as
just
a clean.
for me, it's decompressing.
Exactly. Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Like
yes,
the
totally.
hot water is
That's right.
washing away
Yes.
today.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Oh, do you shower at night or in the morning?
Definitely at night. Yeah.
At night.
I mean, my job is that
You get hella dirty. You get hella dirty.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So and then
I think a lot of the East follows that similar principle of
Yeah.
showering at night before you get into your clean bed. Whereas I think most of the West is showering in the morning to wake up.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. For me,
interesting.
to me, it's mostly the at night because I'm decompressing.
Yeah.
Right.
To be
I'm
more relaxed
decompressing.
going to bed.
And then B is because I come home and I'm like soaked in sawdust and all other kinds of stuff.
Do you have to wash the hair every night, or can you skip one night? Can you go every other night?
If I go to the shop,
Yeah.
then I prefer to wash it every night.
Yes. Yes.
But
if you're at home,
if I'm at home, then I can skip a day.
Exactly.
Sometimes it's actually a little healthier to let
That's right.
to let it breathe and
With
get
the
some
oils.
of its oils. Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly.
But I have to choose between, do I want my healthy oils or do I want my unhealthy sawdust and all the other
that's
stuff?
right.
You know.
That's right. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Interesting.
silly questions. Hit me
I
with
love-
a couple more.
Yeah, that's good stuff. I like the shower one. Can you tell us what your shower thoughts are like?
Oof. That's a very broad one because if I'm angry at you, know for a fact that I'm thinking about you in the shower. You know, I'm swearing at you. I'm like, if I'm angry, that's where again, like I'm decompressing. So I'm letting out all the things that like it's that private space where you're sitting by yourself, where you're not really sitting by yourself, but like it's mostly all the negative things come out and I address them in person. Sometimes I'll talk, and get all of that sort of negative energy out and wash it away. So there's that. And then sometimes it's a good place for me to just brainstorm,
Yeah.
So it's one or the other. There's no other thoughts besides anything random that might come up, but most of the times it's the negative energy that I'm just like taking out, or it's me brainstorming something and being in my own little bubble, right?
And then do you have a little shower whiteboard, or do you have a little notebook, or do you just go on your phone afterward? Do you ever write down what you?
I don't.
You don't write down shower thoughts.
I do not
Okay.
write down, but
Okay.
that's something that I probably should start doing.
Yeah, some of them are profound and you can act on them, and it's
Yeah.
really important for that future authoring North Star thing. How about do you remember your dreams?
Sometimes.
Do you lucid dream? Do you take control of your character in the dream?
I don't do it by choice.
But
There have been
sometimes you do.
instances where I found myself in control.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's like there are also a bunch of dreams where I'm lucid but I'm not in control.
Yeah.
Those are usually some of the dreams that I'm not very happy, like where you're being chased by someone or
Dude,
you're-
I have a shitload of those.
yeah.
I have a shitload of
I
those.
think there's an explanation to it. I've read it somewhere at some point. I can't remember
traumatic
right now.
familial lineage seems to be the most epigenetic scientific also potential answer to that.
But can you elaborate on that?
Just that epigenetics scientifically is validating that transgenerationally we can pass down DNA differentiations in DNA
Interesting.
methylation and the
Interesting.
histone tails, which then can when spiritual people talk about ending trauma, it means that there's an actual biochemical process that happens to DNA that stops. Like if there's no more physical abuse, it stops. If there's no more high levels of cortisol, stress, it stops. If you're not smoking hella tobacco, drinking hella alcohol, it stops.
Right.
And so that's why it's really important to be a fucking good parent and to stop the transgenerational trauma. And so I think that I think it's possible, this is possible, but I think that families, lineages that have undergone, and this is most of the planet actually, I think I think the reason why people have chasing dreams of them being chased and being hunted, assassinated, killed, extremely violent, extremely fearful, that type of stuff, I think has to do with our incessant, perpetual war.
That's very interesting. So to go back to the question, I do remember my dreams. I dream frequently. So a lot of my dreams I remember, but then choose to forget because they're just like either something that I've been overthinking or something that is on my mind, and I'm just like further going through that thought process in a more like mental form, right? But a lot of times I'll find myself waking up and all I can think of is the dream, right? I know some people actually like to write down their dreams and they have a dream journal and things like that. And
Yeah.
I've tried that at a certain point in my life, and I just realized that I was filling it with a bunch of crap. Like, I dream a lot, you know? It's a good thing, I guess. But on the
you
other
can
hand,
selectively pick what you want to, fill with. I fill mine with everything for the last couple of years, and it's been really insightful. But I also understand that sometimes it does feel like it's a completely irrelevant thing to even write down, and so you can choose which ones to write down, and it acts as a really interesting reflection mechanism, especially when people try and do like genealogical archaeology on our lives down the line. It'll be interesting to have these assets for them. Yeah.
But then again, that being said, I think I also like to minimize how many things I need to do before I get out of bed, right? Unfortunately, we live in a world where before you even,
don't do
get
it.
up and
never
go to the bathroom,
touch your phone.
That's
never,
the first
ever,
thing that people
never
want to do.
Don't do
right?
it. Don't touch your phone for an hour after you wake up, and don't touch your phone for an hour before you go to bed.
I completely
and
agree
and
with
instead reflect on consciousness, on your North Star, on the divinity of life, and you will be a lot happier, healthier.
100%.
If you have a partner laying in bed next to you,
Talk
then
to them.
even more so talk to them. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
But yeah, so dreams, I mean, I also want to just put out there that I do believe that dreams are one way of your mind sort of understanding what you're thinking about, right? So it's one way for you to be able to it's like modeling, right? It's like having a modeling software, but it's a very primitive version that's stuck in your head, right? And it just like it operates by itself whenever it wants, and it just shows you a few things here and there every now and then that help you manifest the idea. You know what I mean? So,
and that's what model-based reinforcement learning is also in computer science and machine learning and artificial intelligence. So humans are MBRL, model-based reinforcement learning agents. We do a lot in our dreams. We do a lot of that, of running simulations about optimizing our reward functions, and that's also what we do throughout the day as well. And let's see if I can get this right. The Monte Carlo tree search is where you simulate out, then you simulate out from the base node all the way out to the leaf node, and then you expand it outward. And then you see that it's a good choice, so you select it, and then you go and do back propagation. And so, simulate, expand, and then you there's the choice, the selection, and then the back propagation. I think that's fascinating. I think dreams play a massive role in that. And I want to ask you another silly question, which is. I like so far we've done showers and sleep, which are interesting.
And socks.
Yeah, and socks. Yeah, socks was, I don't know where Logan got that from. I like it though. Socks is a good one too. Yeah, so socks, shower, sleep, so triple S so far. This one is an F. What's your favorite food?
My favorite food. It's a Middle Eastern dish.
Yeah.
It's called mulukhiyeh.
Mulukhiyeh.
Yeah.
What is it?
It's basically a leaf. It's a plant that you just dry out really well, and then there are there are so many different ways to actually prepare it.
Yeah.
But two of the more common ones are where you end up it ends up looking like spinach.
Yeah.
To an extent, and
Yeah.
then you mix chicken with it.
Yeah.
And then you have it with rice.
It sounds. I love this.
It's really
I know. I love
really
this.
good. Like it's.
Yeah.
I
What are the spices? What are the butters? What did you add to it?
There's it's funny. There's a spice called 7 spices.
Yeah, 7 spice.
That's
yeah,
it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's that.
Oh, it's that.
And
okay.
then there's a lot of cumin.
Cumin. Yeah, I love cumin.
And a
Yeah.
shit ton of garlic.
Garlic. Me too,
Yeah,
bro.
a
I'm
shit
all
ton
about
of
that
garlic.
garlic life.
So
yeah.
you put
Yeah.
those 3 things with that leaf and a
Yeah.
little bit of water. It turns into more of like a soupish thing.
Yeah.
And
That
then
sounds great, bro.
I should make it sometime for
let's
you.
let's
definitely do that
let's
for you.
do it with maybe we do it with Evan and we
100%.
yeah let's just go and
there's
hang out
a
with the
second
homies.
shout out this video. I know he's watching right now.
For the shout out counter 5 6
Yeah, maybe you should automate this at some point.
yeah the Evan
The
Bliss
Evan Bliss
counter.
shout outs. You should have like a little counter
tally
up here
mark, like-
and just ding ding.
Yeah, ding, yeah,
I
yeah,
love that.
yeah.
But yeah, so that's
Why we talk about it at the beginning though is because whoever made the introduction between the two get the shout out. It does that genealogical archaeology again, so you know that
I get it.
You know the genealogy of where the network, the nodes got connected and stuff. Because otherwise, we forget. So it's a really interesting thing to be able to go back and recall at the beginning of the episodes. But we should definitely make it. And is it a butter base in the, or what is it? A olive oil or
It's olive oil.
olive oil? Yeah. Okay. Cool.
I mean, Palestinians.
Yeah.
It's almost always olive oil.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Beautiful. That's awesome. Those are great. Those are great answers. Now, and it led us to a man night. You know,
Yeah.
it led us to a man night. So
Yeah.
a bro night. I'm pumped.
I
Yeah.
have to say, not that I didn't enjoy most of it, but this silly question part, you should definitely do this
For
over
every
and
episode.
over.
Yeah.
And I think you should
Yeah.
probably start with it. Like,
Interesting.
you should start there.
Interesting.
Break the ice
Yeah.
and just like
Yeah. Okay.
try it.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so start with silly questions to break the ice, and then get into journey.
And then get into it.
Yeah, because sometimes journey off the bat can be dry and hard for people, especially if they're sometimes trying to get into some of the roots, and it can be hard. But
It also helps
Yeah.
make like people know you better.
Relatable,
I feel like if I
relatable.
know how someone puts
Yeah.
their socks on, I already know them a little better.
a little
you know?
bit, yeah.
Um,
And it's weird because it has to be balanced, because there's also something like, when you start off an episode with, maybe like Steve Horvath and his like epigenetic clock that he has, and I reached out to try and get him on the program. He's at UCLA, and he said maybe sometime soon, that he wasn't able to right now, but that sometimes it's also really, not only sometimes people don't want to answer that stuff, but younger consciousness usually wants to play and stuff. It's fun, but also it's interesting that it can sometimes be really powerful to jump, not sometimes even skipping, not silly questions, and journey, and just getting into like with someone else. Like I think like if we have like Sadhguru on the program, right, or someone that is a mystic or whatever, down the line when we have one, it kind of be interesting to just jump in, like, let's go right into consciousness, that kind of a thing. And that way it's like, boom, you're right there, right at the beginning. There was no warm up, no footsies. So there's like balances and trade-offs, of course, to this space. But I like that. Well, let us know your thoughts in the comments about the silliness and where you like it in the program. It's really cool. Yeah, I'm glad you.
I just loved its presence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Socks, a shower.
3 S's and an F.
Yeah, exactly. Socks, shower, sleep, food. Yeah. Yep. Boom. That's it.
Boom.
I love it. It was a great episode. Good
Yeah,
job.
man.
Good job.
Thank you again for having me. I really appreciate this opportunity. And I hope that we actually did move this whole thing forward in essence of what you're trying to do as well.
Yes.
You definitely helped me understand what I and we are doing.
Yes.
I hope that I've done the same for you too.
Absolutely. Yes. I love the smell of your flower.
Thank you.
I love
the smell of yours too.
Thank you.
I can actually see it.
I can
there
actually
was
see it.
There was that point where you were talking, you
Yeah.
were making that analogy about
Yeah.
the flower, and then I was just looking at you for a second. I was like, damn, like
This guy is
this
a
guy
flower.
really thought about it, thought this entire thing through. He knows where he's coming from. He's got a visual representation.
Yeah,
I love that.
yeah.
That's good. Smell that?
I would really love it if we could almost like have a soul scent.
Mm.
You know, that could be interesting.
That's-
Anyway, Soul Sense.
Yeah.
Soulsense.com. Get the domain if you haven't yet. I don't know, maybe we'll call that our next perfume.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah. You heard it here, folks.
I'll be the first to try.
Let's go take a quick look at Namecheap. just for fun, Soul Sense.
Go for it.
Let's just take a quick look. What are we on? F6? Soulsense.com. Boom. It's registered in 2003. Wow. People jumped on that right away. Looks like we weren't the first shower thought on SoulSense.
I love that.
That's funny.
Yeah.
What did they build? Did they build a website? Did anyone actually do something?
Can you
with it?
try? You could look through it.
Yeah. We can go to it here and then we can go take a look. Let's see. Did anyone do something with it?
Interesting.
No. Or well, yeah. I mean, they put a little soulsense.com is for sale. Click here to inquire. $4,725.
Hey, now that we talked about it, check that price again in a month.
In a month,
Believe
baby.
it. Believe it when I say it, man.
Yeah.
Believe it when I say it.
Well,
But-
that's a wrap, folks. We love you very much. Thank you for tuning in.
Much love.
Much love. We would encourage you, if you do live in the Los Angeles metro area, get your booties down to Makeplus. And also, hopefully, this inspires you to make and undergo the maker's journey, and also to consider the woodworking fab spaces, recording studios, photography, music production studios in your local areas. You know, put those up, get building on those, and unleash some unique creativity in your areas. And support the artists, the entrepreneurs, the spiritual leaders, the scientists in your communities and around the world. You can support us. Our links are below. Support the people you believe in. You already know that. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe if you haven't. Like the video. Share it with other people, especially those that need to get going on their entrepreneur creative dreams. And go and build the future, everyone. Manifest your dreams into the world. We love you very much. Thank you again, Omar.
Thank you
Great
very
job,
much.
brother. Fucking love it. Much love. Peace.
Peace.